Well, this is an interruption to our traveling videos. I was thinking that we have to inform you about the situation we are in. We are now in April 2022 and we are editing our videos from August 2021. Well, many things took place and here we go. You know, Wendy is a very good health policeman in our house. We have doTERRA supplements and all necessary oils to keep us healthy, but sometimes things don't go according to our wishes. So after our 3-month trip, I noticed that my teeth are getting worse and are getting thinner. You know, for the last 6 years, I was taking medication daily due to the heart attack I had 6 years ago. The meds help one problem and they create another one. Well, this time it was my teeth. I have got a tooth infection, then a doctor visit, and I have got antibiotics, and I went to the mountain for elk hunting. I know. During that time I have arranged a dentist visit. Well, time to do something about my teeth. We are going to make one day a video about the subject, but cutting the long story short, the dentist after examination gave me a piece of bad news. I had to have the extraction of all my upper teeth and 4 implants with all the extras, and it will take care of my problem. Therefore, I had to take antibiotics immediately the second time, just 2 weeks after the tooth infection. Long story, everything went well, and now we are in December 2021. We were supposed to go to the Dominican Republic for our 30th wedding anniversary, together with our son, his wife, Claudia, and our first grandson, Milan. By the way, this was the place where we had our first date in 1990. Wendy unfortunately got sick. This time I was taking care of her, applying doTERRA oils on her back and hoping that she will recover fast. And we will be on the way to Chicago and then to the Dominican Republic for 1 week. Suddenly, I got the temperature. Wendy was getting better and I was getting worse. We separated ourselves. We stayed in separate bedrooms. Because I had antibiotics after the dental work, I came up with a brilliant idea that I will kill anything attacking me with these pills. This is 3rd dose of antibiotics in a very short time. It looked like my immune system was depleted and defenseless. I had a temperature for longer than 1 week. Problem with lungs, coughing, low oxygen in the blood. So we went to a doctor, got some medication, we got an oxygen machine, and my health condition was not improving. So I started to hallucinate, looking for a place to cook in our bedroom. I didn't understand why I have a problem with police when I wanted to fry shrimp in our bedroom. This was of course in my mind. In our walking-in closet, I discovered the time portal from a different dimension. And I have warned Wendy that there is such a place in our house. I can only imagine what she was thinking about me when I was trying to explain what I saw. I didn't want to go to the hospital because I knew that I will end up in the COVID infectious room and they will hook me up with ventilator and I will probably die. This is what took place very often in hospitals all over the world in the period of 2020 to 2022 during the COVID pandemic. Well, here is Wendy and her view on the situation.
Well, December of 2021 was supposed to be a real fun month that we were going to be prepared not only to go celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary in Dominican Republic, but Christmas and everything. Well, didn't quite go according to plan. As you may have already heard, I first got sick, and even though I tested negative for COVID, I'm pretty sure I had it because just the symptoms I had. I've never been that sick before. And trying to keep Jack from getting sick, we separated, but sadly he started getting sick. Now, one of the reasons we believe that Jack got sick, not only because of taking so many antibiotics in such a short time, but also taking Tylenol in a cold and flu syrup, like a powder, a sachet, Terraflu here in the States. And we've done that in the past as a way just to try to kill the germs, whatever is happening to our body. Because remember, we're meant to be getting on a plane on December 11th to fly to Chicago. So we're doing what we can to kick this thing out of the park. But sadly, what we heard is instead of allowing the body to fight the fever by itself, we were suppressing it with the Tylenol, which was the worst thing you could have done. So, learn from our mistakes, let the body fight the fever. If, of course, it's really high, 103, 104, then you got to suppress it with something. But from the get-go, to start taking the Tylenol, it was literally putting a lid on a pressure cooker. And after 3 days, he wasn't getting any better. Stopped taking the Tylenol, and it's like it just spread through his body straight to his lungs. So, needless to say, we were doing all that we could to make him well at home, because the last thing we wanted to do was put him into hospital, because we heard way too many stories of people going into hospital and not coming out again. So, in a course of probably a good 7-8 days, just treating him with natural as much as possible, with essential oils. He was actually having IV treatments. We were using ivermectin, which is very effective, but unfortunately it didn't help him because it's probably too late in the game. So we actually had a contact, and this is where I'm very grateful that during this whole COVID storm, people came around us and they were advising us on what to do, who to contact, which was huge. It was an answer to prayer. And again, thank you to all those who are praying for him, because without that, there's no way, I don't really think he would be here today. And just having the peace through the storm, just to deal with it each day. So during the time, just trying to keep him well, unfortunately, his breathing was getting worse and worse. He ended up through the advice of a MD, medical doctor, but also naturopath, it was suggested for him to have nebulizer treatments, which is the inhaler, and with steroid to try to keep his lungs open. So it was just localized for his lungs, and unfortunately it wasn't helping. So then came the oxygen concentrator, so he was put onto oxygen 24/7, and that machine would only go up to 5 liters. And as day 8 came around, it wasn't getting any better. So the doctor actually suggested, instead of just doing the 3 treatments of the nebulizer with the steroid, that I should wake him up every 3 hours throughout the night, and that would be like the decider what we would have to do. The oximeter, the oxygen reader, as far as I understand, it shouldn't drop below 88. Any lower, and it's really critical. You got to get him into hospital. Otherwise, you can have some brain damage because just lack of oxygen. That last night, it was dropping down by 82, 83. Again, it's the responsibility on the caregiver. So my heart goes out to those who have been in this position, because your loved one is struggling and you have that deciding decision to make, put him into hospital or just lay it out again, play another day. Very, very hard. So that last night, again, answer to prayer. I was waiting to give him that last night, every 3 hours of having to give him the nebulizer. So I was waiting for the midnight treatment session, and Jack was trying to rest. He was very restless. He didn't know what to do with himself. And a week prior, I'd been given a testimony of a brother, actually a pastor locally, who had been hospitalized with COVID, but God had turned it around, just miraculously healed him. He had been on 90 liters of oxygen, and in a very short period of time, he'd been in the hospital, I think, like 11 days, and God just turned it around like that. So I had been given, through somebody from the church, this testimony to listen to. I had been so preoccupied just trying to get Jack settled with the oxygen and just going from A to B, sorting everything out. Again, it's a new situation. I've never been faced with that before. So waiting for that midnight treatment, I finally heard the testimony of the pastor, and I was so encouraged. And one of my biggest concerns, that if Jack had to go in a hospital, which hospital would I take him to? Normally you would go to the one closest, which I believe that is part of our plan, but I had heard so many reports that that's not a good place to take him. So I had this mixed emotion going on, and I had a concern or a fear. What if I took him to hospital and they would turn him away because it was in the wrong hospital? Kind of the thoughts that ran through my mind from experiences in Poland. Having a baby, going to the wrong hospital and sending you away. Those kind of things. So I was in this dilemma. I heard the testimony of how this pastor had received amazing treatment at a hospital called Mercy Gilbert, which is not the closest to us, probably a good 30-minute, 25-minute drive from here. So I heard that testimony, and it was kind of like a peace when I heard it, that, okay, if he has to go in, that's the place he's going to go. So that night was not the best. That last night, again, every 3 hours, set the timer to go in and see him. Every time I went into the room, into the bedroom, and again, he's on the oxygen 24/7. He was in a different position every time I went in, and he was beginning to hallucinate. He was talking about some crazy stuff, really struggling, even breathing in the steroid treatment. He had problems taking the deep breaths in with that, and that's not a good sign. By the time the morning came round, now Jack is actually asking to go downstairs and go outside because he's struggling to take some breaths. And again, the machine won't go any higher than the 5 liters. So he finally worked his way downstairs, still attached to the oxygen meter, got him outside. It was really cold. And I asked him, we got to do something. And he agreed to take him into the emergency. So again, the Mercy Gilbert Hospital, this is how God had just set the path for me. Again, I was not sure what to do. I have a client who's actually a nurse who works at Mercy Gilbert. So I contacted her, and amazingly, she responded straight away. She was actually meant to be in India. She changed her flight because of the COVID. She put it to May. And remember, this is December. And I asked her, and I showed her his ID for health insurance. Does your hospital take this? And straight away, yes, we do. Get him in the hospital, get him in the car and bring him over to the hospital. Okay, so that's easier said than done, but he's now on oxygen 24/7. He needs oxygen to get in the car to drive to the hospital. Again, answer to prayer. I have 2 clients who are COPD, so they are on oxygen 24/7. And one of them came to the rescue and gave me her oxygen tank. So I was able to go with a portable unit that actually went up to much higher than 5 liters. So I got all this set up, got him in the car, took him over there. There was no line. It was incredible. There was no line. Probably took less than 5 minutes to get him in the back, to get him all sorted out. And grateful that Jack was still coherent, because they asked him a couple of questions. One of the most important questions they asked him, if need be, would you agree to the ventilator? And he said no. Now, if that was a question, if we had waited one more day and that question was asked me, and now my husband is not coherent, can you imagine being asked that question? If you don't put your husband on a ventilator, he's going to die. And knowing full well the chances of coming off that ventilator, he may not survive it either. But just grateful to God that I was not asked that question. He was. So he's put in the hospital, straight away up to 15 liters of oxygen. had to wait 48 hours or so to get a bed up on the in the department, on the ward, on the COVID floor. It was full. It was full. But at least he was in good hands. So then back, getting out the prayer requests, and I mean, again, so grateful being able just to send the prayer requests and keeping people updated for the 13 days he was in hospital. People around, literally around the world, in Poland and England and Canada and Germany, I mean, all over, they were praying for him. And God truly was answering prayers. So one of the first things, he's on the COVID floor with, I think it was like 25 people. They allowed me in. They didn't test me if I had COVID. They didn't ask me if I had COVID. They allowed me in. I had to put on this PPE, all the gear, whatever it's called. I was supposed to be there just 30 minutes was the plan. The 13 days, apart from one day, they allowed me to be in there 2-3 hours at a time. I was trying to be a help to them, so I guess that helped as well. But they allowed me to use essential oils, which is kind of unheard of. And he's in a room by himself, connected with all the machines and stuff. I was applying, and I truly believe the essential oils helped as well, the doTERRA oils, applying them down his spine, on the bottom of his feet. I had them diffusing in the room. Oils to help with just breathing in general, to boost his immune system and just to strengthen him. The staff that he had was incredible. Because he'd lost a lot of weight, he wasn't able to eat properly because he had the dental work, severe dental work, so he didn't have the upper teeth, he didn't have his dentures, so he was on solid, soft food. But one of the turning points, I truly believe, that apart from all the prayer, after 9 days of being in hospital, so it's like good 2 weeks that he's been sick. I asked the nurse, they were administering, so by this time he's been administered steroids through a stent in his gut. And now it's his whole body receiving the steroids. He had been on 2 more courses of antibiotics, so that's 5 within like a 2-month period. But there's something called monoclonal antibodies. It's been reported here that it's effective within the first 5 days, and it's meant to be very expensive. So usually after that period of time, it's not considered worth giving to the patient. So day 9 in hospital, I asked the nurse what it is she's doing, and she said she was very surprised that the doctors had prescribed the monoclonal antibodies. And within 48 hours, there was a turnaround in Jack's health. He had gone from 60 litres, and it was just dropping down to 40. And if my memory served me right, it was around 45 litres, and it went down to 15 litres. And that was during that time of the antibodies working in his body and prayer. So there was just a turnaround, and it was just incredible. Even a nurse, a male nurse, was a born-again Christian who came and prayed with him. The client who helped me, advised me to get him into the Mercy Gilbert. Her pastor is a chaplain at that hospital. He came and prayed with him as well. There was so many things that it was just God just working his thumbprint on the whole thing. He's working behind the scenes. But just the peace, and how during that time when Jack was in hospital and the concern about the finances, how on earth is we going to pay for this? Because obviously the insurance here is ridiculous. But comfort through even the pastor who is involved with insurance, giving advice not to worry, because he's able to direct us in the right path when there was concern. There was just so many things that just brought peace in a time of a crazy storm. When Jack was finally released on day 13, he had to be it had to be at least 3-4 litres, and it was. And again, if I didn't have the oxygen, the portal oxygen, I wouldn't have been able to bring him back that day, because it was December 30th, the place where, because I had to get the concentrator back in the home. In order to get that oxygen concentrator, we needed to get a script from the doctor. So it was a runaround and a time crunch. So by the time I arrived that day to come in to see Jack, not quite sure if he was going to be released, I just pulled up, get a call from him. Yes, they're releasing me, but that's all well and good, but we need the oxygen at home. So literally walked in the hospital, got the script done, sent to the place which is down the road from where we are, back in the car, 30 minutes, was able to get the concentrator. Praise God they had some because they didn't always have them. Got the concentrator, put it back home, set it up, back to the hospital, had the portable unit so I could connect Jack, drove him back home. All of this to say, if we had waited another hour, that place that had the concentrator would have been closed. 31st, New Year's Eve, they didn't open. Then it was the weekend, he'd have to wait till Monday. So grateful that he was home before the new year, and then the healing process, he decided by himself 5 days on the oxygen was enough, and just so slowly but surely getting stronger and stronger. And again, hearing the stories of how people have had this long COVID, just a very slow, like months and months of healing. Really, Jack has done amazing just to get his strength back. Obviously, losing 35 pounds in 3.5 weeks is not recommended. Muscle mass had dropped immensely, just the weakness, lack of lack of sleep, just so many things. But just so grateful that we have another story to share of God's goodness and faithfulness, and just how he hears prayer. And thank you all for being there for us, and God is good.
Now, I went down from 250 pounds to 214 in about 1 month. 36 pounds, the best diet ever. Well, after 2 weeks in the hospital, fortunately, Wendy was able to come to visit me every single day. I have the best wife ever. Well, she's the only wife I have. After I came home on December 30th, 2021, I was on oxygen for about 1 more week. Today is almost 100 days later. I gained almost 20 pounds and my muscles are stronger. In the beginning, I had a hard time walking up the stairs to go to my office.
So Jack's making amazing progress. Day 6 of being home, and he's decided enough with the oxygen. So he's down, we dropped it from 2.5 the last couple of days to 2 this morning, and then I finished work and he had no oxygen. So I
disconnected the oxygen, and I wanted to find out if I can function on my own. Stairs are still difficult.
But that's a double whammy, right? The muscles are weak, and then obviously more of a workout. But he's doing fantastic. Just slowly, honey. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will your lungs be completely restored overnight. But you're doing great.
Okay. Thank you. Now it's much better. After all these events, I dedicated myself to finish editing the videos from our trip, because I was very close to finish my life, and I wanted my grandchildren to know who were their grandparents. You have to know that our life is very fragile. Today we live, tomorrow we are gone. In my first video, Faith is on the Move 0, I was explaining the reason for starting this channel. I have so much to tell you. I just hope that I will have time and the opportunity to do that. Well, summarizing this episode, I would like to thank everybody who was praying for me, who was crossing their fingers for my recovery. One more time, thank you, and God bless you.